LA. You're tuned to Valley Free Radio 103.3 FM. I am the Viking woman. And to my right is my co-host,
Bunny.
we all
Yeah.
love Bunny. But tonight we have a special guest, and I'm going to have my guest introduce himself. Can you state your name and what you do for a living?
Hi, my name is Guion Hughes. I'm from Los Angeles. I do content creation among a bunch of other things, but that's the main thing I'm on here for is making content, telling stories, just getting some of my wisdom out of living in LA and going out and partying in LA, going to clubs, seeing bands in the punk and goth and different alternative scenes that we have here.
Right. We managed to luck out, and we just happened to know one person, and thankfully this person got us connected, because I'm going to be in LA this weekend. And this, I want to make sure I got your first name pronounced correctly. Is how do you pronounce it again?
Guion.
Guion.
Yeah, but you can just go by G. I mean, yeah, it's really hard.
It's not
like
hard.
Yeah, it's a French name, so in America, we don't get used to it that much.
Guion. No, it's a cool name. I like it. I mean,
I like it.
Yeah, thanks.
So, we do have a few things we want to discuss, but first of all, the first thing I want to talk about with you is the LA scene in itself. I'm going to be there in 2 days, and I'm very, very excited. When I spoke with a few people about the LA scene, most people think it does not exist. The goth backslash occult subculture, people don't even think it exists anymore. And that is not true. What can you tell my audience right now about the goth LA scene, and what kind of expectations they should have if they ever go to LA? Or how do they find this? How do they find this subculture?
Yeah, well,
Los
I mean,
Angeles.
I think it's you can go to Facebook or the social media and you can find different things about it. I think what the confusion is they're really, it all kind of melded together. The punk scene, kind of became the goth scene, became the death rock scene, and then the thing, and then there was also always the industrial noise, those kind of scenes and all those. We have all these individual scenes still today, but a lot of times they're not broadcast as much. I mean, I think a lot of people know like Bar Sinister is really popular, and that's, they consider that like is the whole goth scene, and we consider that more of like kind of like a tourist place or a newcomer place, and
Right.
we look for the more. I think a lot of it is too is people know each other, they know the DJs, they know the security or the club runners, so they're like in the know with that. I don't think it's people don't really advertise that much or any of that. They don't put things on TV or anything. So a lot of times we want our clubs to be private. A lot of times even we have after hours clubs and stuff that we don't want any attention or people trying to call people on or something, or even even modernly. I think another reason that we kind of try to keep it on the DL is modernly there's a lot of on social media, somebody could just come along and just do a reaction thing to your thing, like if you do a video in the club or something horrible happened in that club, they'll say maybe it really didn't, but if somebody's loudly saying that it did, then people may assume that. So there's a reaction culture that we're trying to kind of avoid modernly. But I think there's always been kind of an underground element, because that's just like how LA is, and
Right.
It is a little percent. I guess it would be some people might think that it's a little bit like elitist or something, but I think that the main thing is they don't want people coming, because sometimes celebrities come to these clubs and stuff. They don't want people just coming in and just harassing people, or just going there that they're normals and they want to just go and fetishize on goth girls or something. We don't really want that kind of stuff, so we don't necessarily advertise that much, so people think that we're not it's not that big. But there is a huge scene of all the different subcultures, and I go out all the time. I've been started going out when I was 13, and still 53. I'm 53, still going out, so it's almost 40 years of that time. And people they go in and they go out, because I had to raise kids, so I went in, I went out. I had to only go once in a while, but I do have a core group of friends that I call and say, let's go to this place because it reminds you of the old days. So it's very much still alive. It's just, like I said, it's a little bit underground, and that's kind of how we want it, to a certain degree.
I actually do appreciate the fact that this subculture has gone underground. And for me, and I'm actually glad I got this invite from you, because otherwise I wouldn't even know it exists. A lot of people don't even know it exists anymore. So this is a good thing that this is now being, at least in my community here in Northampton, Massachusetts. My listeners will at least appreciate that if they ever go down to Southern California, there is something for them, which is great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to steer to it the next direction is basically I want my audience to get to know you a little bit better. And I know you want to talk about a little bit of your childhood. You had a very interesting beginning, as you would say.
Yeah.
Something about how you were born in an army hospital.
Wow.
Yes. So you would like to talk about?
Sure. Well, yeah. So yeah, I was. My dad was actually in Vietnam. He got drafted when he was 17, and my
Whoa.
mom was like his high school sweetheart, and she would rode him the whole time there, and was crying and so upset that because he was literally getting shot at, and he got some Purple Hearts too. He got shot in the head with a dart from a we would call like maybe a native, but they called them mountain yards. They were like in Apocalypse Now. So he got shot in the head with a dart. He fell out of a helicopter and broke all his teeth out on the end of his rifle. So he got that.
Oh my God.
Oh my.
My buddy fell out of a helicopter in Afghanistan. It's not fun.
No.
Yeah. Well, he told me stories that he got pushed out of a helicopter one time and like into a rice paddy. Because it didn't hurt him, but he was like chest deep in his rice paddy water. So he was going through a lot of obviously going through a lot of hard stuff. And then he got rest and relaxation. The R&R, the lead from directly from the battlefield. And he met with my mom. And back then it wasn't supposed to happen or whatever, but they weren't married yet. But she got pregnant because they were in Hawaii. He used his money from that to Hawaii. And then, she was pregnant and they kind of let him go. He didn't do another tour. He was drafted. He didn't really want to go anyway because, he didn't, it wasn't his choice. He served, he had to or whatever.
Right.
And he came back to Fort Benning, Georgia. And he was training the Rangers. He'd be the guy that jumped out like pretending to be an enemy for the Army Rangers and stuff like that.
Right.
And during that time, I was born there. But both my mom and my dad were from Southern California. They were born and raised in Southern California. Well, my dad was born in West Virginia, but he'd been there for at least 10 years. And my mom was pretty much born there and raised. So yeah, that was the thing. So I was born there. It was really chaotic. The Army hospital. I was a breech birth, and back then they didn't do cesarean so much. It wasn't it was 1969 when I was born. So my mom almost died. I almost died as a baby, and so that started kind of like this chaotic thing. I think I've always had a thing with chaos around me, trying to manage and bring chaos to order around me. And the birth was like that, and also another thing that after I researched it, when babies are born breech, they have a certain thing, a sacred clown. They call it a heyoka. It's like a Native American thing. Oh,
right.
Sorry, yeah. She's freaking out. I was trying to put her to bed, but yeah. So this thing with the sacred clown is when people were born breech in the Native American cultures and stuff. They would say that that they have this certain talent of modernly we call it implant, impasse, heyoka implants. But heyoka actually is a term that comes from the Sioux Native American tribe that's saying sacred clown, and everything they do everything backwards. And I was also as a child diagnosed with dyslexia and stuff like that because I would write and read backwards, but I do it really good. It was backwards. Right. But yeah, so that led to a lot. I had a pretty chaotic childhood, and it actually led to me having to live with my grandparents. Right. And so that's when my grandfather died in front of me, and that brought a whole thing of the occult and thing. And that was when I was 7 years old in 1977. So there's like some numbers, numerology behind that too. Right. And so yeah, that kind of led me to the occult. And to these alternative type scenes like punk and goth and those kind of things. But at first it was just punk, pretty much.
Right. I'm going to actually chime in for a second. One thing I remember when I was in Arizona, I went through the Navajo, and I ended up picking up this. When you go to a gift shop, sometimes you gravitate to like an object, and the one I ended up gravitating to was a Navajo clown. and I ended up buying it. In fact, I had it on my purse for like many years until it got lost in Disney World in Florida this earlier this year, which I was very sad to lose. But this one was Navajo, and when I was ready to go fly back home to Massachusetts, I was sitting in the bus, and I had the Navajo clown, but it was like a young blue Indian Native American brave. He was color blue with his feathers, traditional, but he was young. He looked like he was 17 or 18, and he passed right through me in a bus, and I was like, what just happened? So it's kind of cool that like me and you, we can talk about these things, about like paranormal experiences that cannot be explained away, but at least for us it feels real. And for anybody of my listeners that are listening to it, like with you were able to relate to the one, the Cherokee what they call it, the sacred clown. And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I had the sacred clown pass through me, but mine was Navajo.
Yeah. Well, I was actually raised with a Navajo family here in LA too. I mean, the mother was from the reservation, and being Navajo, the father was Mexican, so they were kind of a mixed between the two. So I know a lot about the Navajo. I mean,
Were they
I
Dene? Were they Dene?
yeah, they call it Dene as the actual name. It's funny that the which I don't know, how much this is in history, because a lot of the Native American history and stuff is lost and skewed. But Navajo, because Nava in Spanish, Nava means knife. Knife. And so it's almost like they're calling them the knife raiders. The Spanish, because and then I think the whole part, it comes from like people thinking that Native Americans, when they greet you, the language is all the same, which it isn't, obviously, right? But they would say how when they were friendly, and then they would say ho, like trying to scare you if they were like not friendly. So it'd be like Nava, like knife scarers, knife raiders, So that's the real name they call is Dene. Dene is their language, and they actually that particular tribe and the Hopi and the Zuni in there, they actually preserved a lot of their culture because they didn't have to go through the Trail of Tears with all the East Coast states. And and I'm from Oklahoma too, so I have a Native connection there too. With because that was Indian territory, they used to call it, and that was supposed the whole state was supposed to be for natives, and then it didn't work out that way anyway.
No.
So that's the I've had a lot of Native American background, and I know about the shamanism and the spirituality of that also, and if things get too crazy in the cities, I run to the reservation, and I got a trailer on my friend's thing and just disappear, because I think you get, especially now with COVID and all that. I mean, I was gone most of the time in those areas, just in the middle of nowhere, just driving my Subaru around.
Well, at least you have places to go and people that where if you feel like you need to break away from the city, you have like I hate using the word safe space, but you have a place to go. How about that?
Yeah, a getaway.
Places like those are good to be creative too.
Oh yeah. Now, a big one of mine too is going to Desert Hot Springs. That's like a good getaway. There's not many people. It's in a high desert here in California, and it's not that expensive because it's like it's just not developed that much yet. So you could stay at the hot tub place for like $70 a night. It's fine for me.
Not bad.
Yeah, no. Sometimes I want to just LA just gets a little bit too much with all this stuff going on. Sometimes for me even, and I'm used to it.
Are you talking about the hot springs in Hesperia, California?
Well, the one I'm actually talking about it's called Desert Hot Springs. It's close to Joshua Tree and Coachella and all those places.
I might have been to those. I did go out to some hot springs in between LA and Las Vegas.
Yeah, there's tons of them all over. When you're going on that route, and just the old ghost towns. Most places that had any water at all, they built a little ghost town around it, or now it's a ghost town. They built a settlement and it turned into a ghost town now because people, didn't it didn't out with the gold and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing I'm going to ask is for one of the talking points we wanted to go over is your initiation to necromancy. I think it started when you were at the age of 7, starting with the death of your grandfather. And then you kind of went into the connection with Star Wars, chaos magic, Jedi and Sith, which the back and forth of order versus chaos, and then later on you got into martial arts, your army training, and then you started talking about the alternate knight, the modern knight today, along with the pop culture of the new mythology of the gods. So I'm just curious what you may want to add to.
Yeah, that's that, it turned out in 1977. So my mom and dad didn't get along that well. I mean, mostly probably because my dad got severe PTSD from the war. And he was just coming from the war. It wasn't like it was 20 years ago. It was like 5 years ago, right, or something. I mean, when I was born, basically, ever since I was born, he had that on his mind or whatever. So I lived with my grandparents, and then and as my grandfather was only 55 years old, and I was the day after his birthday, and it was in 1977, and I was 7. And yeah, he had a major aneurysm, and his aorta burst, and like he just died, and I didn't even know people really died, or I thought it was in the movies or stuff like that. But when he died, I was right there. I was in, he was right in front of me. So his spirit kind of came through me. I could feel that there was something more. It wasn't just that you die and you go out,
Right.
So what happened was, there wasn't a lot of therapy back in the 70s, and I also, they didn't put me in therapy or anything, and nobody went to therapy. But anyway, so my grandfather started coming back when I was ready to go to sleep, which I later found out that's because we go into a brain state that's like a theta brain state, that we're more receptive to seeing things or even manifesting things that we see in our minds or whatever. So my grandfather coming back when I was trying to go to sleep as a child, and first I would just scream and go crazy, because I mean it's a dead grandfather, and he looks different. He looks a little more disheveled and stuff. The image that I saw of him. The thing is he started saying, "Don't scream, don't scream, don't tell people you're seeing me," things like that. Using intelligence, kind of telling me these things, and that I wouldn't come up with on my own. So I knew that it was probably not just in my head, because I was just a little kid and I would just wanted to scream, and he was telling me not to scream and don't tell people that you see me, because you go to a hospital and all that stuff. Then eventually I got used to talking to him, and he brought in other spirits, and I got this big. That was what I consider the initiation in necromancy, kind of, right? Because he is a disembodied being, and he's bringing other disembodied beings or some kind of beings that they're telling me all this stuff, and
Right.
And then right around 1977 is when Star Wars came out, so I saw that in the theaters, and I don't know. I think the second one was mostly where they showed where they had a ghostly figure of Obi-Wan Kenobi or whatever, but they showed Obi-Wan Kenobi how he died and there's nothing left, and then he talking about how I always thought that you don't see things, you don't see where you're moving and stuff. So if someone does do something, you just move automatically. That's how they said where the guy who put his blinders on with the Star Wars. So I was really feeding into Star Wars almost like it was some kind of religious training or something, because I was kind of out of it because of my grandfather, and I that led to me getting into martial arts more, and the stuff that you mentioned. Then later I joined the army myself. My dad wanted me to. It didn't work out that well for me, and there wasn't any wars then. So this is in 1989.
Right, there's nothing going on.
So it was a Cold War, but I still had very interesting interactions with their new training and stuff like that, and that's a whole thing for another time. But yeah, that's I think the thing with Star Wars, and why I say the modern mythology is the movies are our mythology. They're our pantheon. People don't realize that, but that's what's become our thing is the movies. Just like in the old Greek or Roman, they would have Zeus, and they'd have a storyteller tell you all about Zeus and all the goddesses and all that stuff. Now we have movies, and you've been seeing it moving in with Thor and the different gods. Now the last Thor, they had Zeus in Thor, right? So you see it coming in. I think that's my main thing with the cult is people. A cult just means hidden, and we hide from. Maybe it's just supposed to be that way. We hide our cult from us. We don't want to think that movies are magic and movies are our new religion, but they kind of are.
Right. No, that's yeah. You brought
so that's where I'm with that. I mean, I'm trying to I do videos about these things, and I try to get people to realize that finding their truth or their meaning of life is looking around you and saying, oh well, this in 100 years they're going to say that that these movies were a cult, you know,
Right.
we're a cult, whatever, you know. So like, you know,
No, this is cool. All right.
Yeah.
What we'll do next is let me see what the time is. I think we got a few more minutes and we could talk another talking point before we I wish I had a better Zoom connection because I have to do two of them tonight. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna talk about your time when you started going into the punk scene, and then later on how you transitioned from the punk scene going into the death rock scene when you were a you were a teenager at the time. So I'll have you start your story from there.
Okay. So yeah, so in the early 80s, you know, I would actually, before I went to any shows, I went to Knott's Berry Farm. They had this place called Studio K and Cloud 9. And those, you know, that was which now we think of as 80s or alternative maybe, but that was what the music was coming out, like the Cure, you know, the Smiths. That was pop music for us, basically, you know. Now we look at it as retro in the 80s and all that.
Yep.
In the 80s, that was the music. So we would dance a little bit like that. So then we got together, we got our courage up a little bit because they're very young, you know, like 14, 13, 14. When we were, I mean, it was before I could drive, we like all got our courage up and went to our first punk show, which is at the Palladium in Hollywood, you know. And I saw the Toy Dolls. I think the Dickies opened up for them. There was like, it was a good show. It was a good fun show, like, you know, and they were kind of jokey bands, you know, so they weren't hardcore like you know, bands that we were afraid of because we were young, you know. So after that, we went to Finder's Ballroom and saw Social Distortion and bands like that. So we got a little bit more hardcore, got a little bit used to like, and that's almost basically, I think that's kind of a martial arts kind of, you know, training, is to go into the pit and learn how to get knocked down. And, you know, it's almost like, you know, you could survive a riot if you've done a lot of, you know, a lot of going to the pit and and all the different things, because people just come and shove you and you got to make sure you're not going to just fall down. And so there's a lot of dynamics there too that feed into martial arts, I believe, you know. So the thing is the whole scene kind of got infested with gangs, you know. And so in the 80s, you know, they had the skinheads, which was more Caucasian gang. There was more, you know, and some of them were just, you know, they were okay. They weren't, you know, incredibly racist, and some of them were, you know, but like, you know, because, you know, the music actually comes from like Jamaican ska and stuff like that. So, you know, there were some, you know, so but they fought each other too, because they had the Jamaican ska type of black skin, or black skinheads, or people that likes that thing, and then they had the you know, the National Front or American Front, you know, these gangs that really wanted to, like, they were white supremacist gangs essentially. So I kind of joined one called the Suicidals, but after Suicidal Tendencies. And we got, you know, so we started, you know, having a little bit of scuffles with that. But we was, you know, I wasn't a tough guy. I didn't want to be a gangster, and I didn't have nothing to prove. So we all got together and we realized that, you know, people were, you know, getting shot in the parking lot, getting people sneaking in weapons, trying to stab people in the pit, and, you know, fights were breaking out, people were getting beat up. So we were like, you know, and women stopped showing up, you know. So
right,
there was
the ratio from women to men like dropped significantly, and it became a sausage fest.
I would argue, yeah. I would argue that they were smarter than those guys, but you know, but because I like to get on women's good side. But yeah, they don't want. There were a few women who wanted to go and see people get shot, beat up, bloodied in a pit, all, you know. So that's when we said, you know, there was a scene. They were just called death rockers, though, not really goth so much. I guess I don't know if that term even existed that much back in the 80s. Here in my scenes, at least, there was nobody in my city of Downey in that scene that was into that much, other than one, like two other guys that I know, two other people, maybe three people that I knew. So we all got together and started going to these other clubs. The first club I went to was called Scream, and we started seeing, you know, bands like Christian Death and things like that, and it was a lot more mellow. And so there was, like, you know, we eventually went to, you know, where we go to industrial shows, so like the Sudamoor and Das Bunker. That was started in the 90s, you know. There were also shows that the industrial scene did, that the Chaos Magic came into, and we could go into those later and stuff. But yeah, that was the main thing, was that for us, that, you know, we wanted to, I mean, I guess those guys wanted to keep showing up to show who was the toughest, or, you know, something like that. But that wasn't for us. We wanted to go, you know, just socialize and talk to people and peacefully have fun. And it was, you know, you still have to have your guard up. I think everywhere you still have to have your guard up. You know, you got to watch your drinks wherever you go. I mean, no matter if they have 50 bouncers. They can't control somebody maybe sneaking something in your drink or singling you out, shadowing you. That's why it's good to go in groups. It's good to, have a general safety. And me and my sons, we teach that. I mean, myself from the thing, and my sons are into security and stuff. My son's in the Army right now, even. So we try to get people and do videos and even, do live education about, just you have your awareness. Know that that you may have to use an improvised weapon. You may have to use your beer bottle, match somebody with it. You don't want to. You don't. I don't recommend that. But if somebody's really coming at you,
Right.
to think bouncers or security or even police are going to help you in an underground club, it's not going to happen.
Right.
You're probably going to get thrown out, and then whoever's bothering you is going to like find you outside, and they'll just it's going to be like you're a problem.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, I'm trying to see how much time we got left. I think we got like maybe a little bit more than 5 minutes. So just in case we get, because probably what I'm going to do is like after this point, I'll probably have, we'll just finish the interview like at 20 of and play some music. And then I got to start the next one with the next interview, which is a pre-recorded. You probably know who I'm talking about. Adam Percipio.
Uh-huh.
Gonna be doing an interview with, gonna be playing his interview afterwards at the top of the next hour. But before we go, you have a very funny story with a musician that everybody knows. His name is Billy Idol. So you want to tell everybody about your story about him?
Yeah, for sure.
Sonny's gonna like this one.
Last night, a little dancer came dancing to my door.
Yeah, well, so I was talking about how we kind of get this instinctual way of surviving in the slam pits and stuff like that. And I would go to the punk rock shows with these Navajo brothers that I was raised with, And so we had this joke technique, they don't even have buffalo with the Navajo, but they have sheep. But because they were native, we would joke and say, the buffalo technique, we just throw our elbow up, right away, like just throw an elbow up, like instinctively when someone was coming at you, even full force, they're gonna hit your elbow. They're gonna get hurt. I mean, and you're not hitting them; they're hitting you. So so we call that the buffalo technique. That we throw our elbow up, and I still use that today if I'm in the right thing. So I went to the show. This is in the early '90s, and my friend was playing there, Jacob Cavalier. His band was called the Go Nuts. Billy showed up with an entourage, and it was cool. And then for a while we were pogoing and slamming. It was epic. We were slamming and pogoing with Billy Idol and a guy from the Stray Cats, and I think there was a guy from the Fuzztones there. It was like a celebrity thing. So that was fine. But then Billy took over the stage and started singing. And I didn't like it. He took over my friends' bands on the stage. Maybe they liked it. I don't know. But he started singing. He started goofing on Elvis, like Andy Kaufman or something, right? And we thought, yeah, it's kind of silly. So we started goofing on him and doing. We were like eyes without a face. We started doing the lip. You remember the lip he had? With the,
Yes.
So then his entourage was like, leave Billy alone. He's cool. This and that, right? And so we got to do a little scuffle with the entourage because they came up and they put their hands on us. They were like, put those hands. Because we were doing the rebel, with the arm up, and they were like, push your hands down. We're like, hey, you put your hands on us. So we got a little scuffle. Billy jumps off the stage and he's gonna solve this with his star power, right? And he comes running up. What the hell's going on, all right? And then I instinctively just threw the elbow, right? He gets hit in the head. He's like, "Oh, my head here." He probably used some bad words that we probably can't say. But he's like, "My bleeding head." And then I think I mentioned that I thought he was a has-been fashion punk and he should go back to England. And I got kicked out of the club, but it was worth it, I think. Right?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
293. It was at a place called the White Horse. And
this guy elbowed Billy Idol. Funny. This is great. No, these are like these. I love these stories. I mean, so many people have great stories to tell.
Say your prayers.
So anyway, I'm really glad that we got a chance to meet. Now, Bunny, luckily got a chance to talk with you a little bit, but I'm gonna be with I keep forgetting. They never get to pronounce it G. It's
Guion.
Guion.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that, like I said, I have to thank Adam Percipio to getting us connected. along with some of the other groups that you're affiliated with. Like I think you're affiliated with the YouTube channel Dark Sorcery.
Yeah, I do podcasts there, and I have my own
what-
channel, Guillotine Productions.
Okay, so give a shout out to your little company, and also with Dark Sorcery, because I'm still getting familiar with those guys also.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on mine, I'm going to start a whole thing, kind of like doing things about different people I know in LA, and everybody just telling their story. Because, just like I'm trying to tell my story, there's a lot of different stories. And I think that people will get a lot of, not just be entertained, but get wisdom to start their own scenes, or how to act in whatever scene there are, not to be nervous to go out. That's going to be my goal. I think Alfredo is Dark Sorcery. He's been doing the occult podcast forever. I got Adam into that. And that's why Adam, as a
Yes.
networking courtesy, he said, hey, I had to you guys so I met you guys through that, because I helped Adam get on that show. And so we're just trying to do different shows, networking, and get big. But
Yes.
it's scary to get big too, because there's a lot of this reactions culture, like I was saying, and people, a lot of creeps come out, even for men, even for big scary looking men like me. But still creeps come out, and stalkers and all kinds of stuff that it's just not fun.
It's going to be interesting. Like when I finally land in Los Angeles, this is going to be my first time in 30 years being in that city. So it's the first time I was there was culture shock.
Yeah.
It was big culture shock for me, but also I think the second time, since the city has changed so much, since there's now a larger Latino population, along with some of the problems in that city, it's unfortunately it's not in its prime right now. So but
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. I mean, you basically
Well,
told
no, you'll see, and you've got, and I go out all the time, and you do have to have like a taser, pepper spray. I mean, I don't have to use it usually, but the taser thing makes people back off usually. But yeah, people that come up for change, a lot of panhandlers, dangerous. Yeah.
Right. Okay, we're almost out of time here, because this is when the Zoom connection like cuts off. So I want to have you say your goodbyes. And
Okay.
I'm going to call you on your phone once I get off here, and I'm going to play some music after this. But thank you for being on Valley Free Radio on my program Darkwave with myself and my co-host
Bunny.
And I'll be in touch in a few seconds. But I think the next song I'm going to be playing a track by Sidewalks and Skeletons, one of your favorite bands that you introduced me to. So thank you very much.
I hope I can be back.
You will be. You're fun. Yeah. You're a fun individual, and your levity is much wanted.
Yeah, that was a cool Billy Idol story.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a great time. I hope we do more of these.
All right. We'll be back. Okay, so we're going to be playing some music right now, and we'll be back shortly.